So, hey, welcome everybody. Uh,
Hello.
Hello, good to see you. I'm here in Los Angeles, and you can't see how beautiful it is outside, but trust me,
Be
it's
nice, yeah.
another boring day of high 70s and sunshine.
I'm feeling jealous down here in Austin, which is definitely not known for its luxurious summer breeze.
Yeah.
So,
But I do, before we get into it, Gina, I want to make sure everybody knows that they need to get the Salt Lick Dry Rub, um,
tell me more.
which yeah, Austin Salt Lick, a
Oh,
famous
the
barbecue
Salt
place.
Lake. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I know about Salt Lake. Sorry. I thought you said,
yeah,
never mind.
yeah.
I was going in a whole different direction. Yes.
Yes, the
Oh,
Salt Lick,
yes.
the
You
dry
certainly
rub
must.
from the Salt Lick, which you get at Amazon, is the best. Period. That and Rendezvous.
Mm,
So let's
yeah,
just make sure that's out there.
that's,
I
yeah, at par.
I'm having crazy lag. Are you?
A little bit.
Okay.
Maybe not as crazy because I mean, mostly, am I out of sync? Is my audio and video out of sync, or is it that you're hearing me after I
No, I
move?
it's mostly
Yeah,
me.
there is
I'm
lag.
I'm freezing. Um,
I mean, it looks and sounds fine on my end for what it's worth.
okay.
How about you all? Since we've got 13 of you here, if you want to
Yeah,
weigh in on the
let us
audio visual quality.
yeah, let us
You're
know.
welcome.
Let us know. Um And so let me just start off with the general my excitement in talking to you. We connected a couple months ago. Uh, I, as people may or may not know, I'm a leadership coach. After I'm a recovering entrepreneur, become a leadership coach. My clients call me a leadership therapist. I'm not a therapist. I did play one on Zoom,
Which is
and I
good
yeah.
for your own
uh,
good.
for my own good. Um, my mother's a therapist. I talk about that a lot. But then meeting you, who's a real therapist, who's also a leadership coach, uh, like
Well,
brings up.
a real therapist and playing at being a leadership coach. To
Yeah,
be
right.
fair,
So
we are
it's
coming at this from complementary paths. Yeah,
completely between the two of us. It's like you know Reese's peanut butter cups.
we are one whole. Yes,
Exactly. You complete me.
like
um, should we jump into the topic?
yeah.
Um,
Let's do it and see where it takes us. Because I feel like
yeah.
yeah. Well, maybe I mean, should I? I guess I'll
Go
just briefly
give your
express my
yes.
mutual excitement at getting to hash out some of these topics of mutual interest with you because for my part I do often hit against the kind of limitations that I know I bring in virtue of not having been an operator, right? I have not founded a company and seen it through. I'm not a recovering entrepreneur. And I think I've really, through the years of working with founders and leaders, I've really, in a way, come to appreciate the importance of that experiential learning. I mean, I always knew it mattered, and that was part of the reason that I immersed myself both by marriage and through my various professional endeavors, kind of have given myself as much of an immersion in the lives and travails of founders as I can. But what part of what that's taught me is like this journey is unlike any other, and that there's just so much subtle pattern recognition, and know-how that I know you bring and that there's really no substituting for in terms of all my PhD and postdoc education and all of my learnings by observing and studying founders. None of it quite substitutes for the lived experience. And the fact that I know you're also among the panoply out, of leadership coaches, executive coaches out there, you clearly are someone who actually also cares about the mental game and who cares about kind of like what's the deeper stuff going on under the hood, what's this person's why. And that makes it extra fun, a rare pleasure to get to compare notes with you.
Can you give us the 30, 45-second background on you?
Oh, sure. Yeah, so I'm a clinical psychologist by background. I have, my PhD and internship postdoc. I was a professor in New York. Now I'm faculty at UT Austin in the psychology department. I did years and years of yes, the horns. I actually still mess it up. So you probably yeah, go with Chef's rendition. But anyway, I'm an import clearly to
Yeah.
the Longhorn tradition. But anyway, I have, published, I don't know, dozens, somewhere upward of 20, 30, peer-reviewed publications based on my academic research. I um, was really steeped in that academic world, but always had half a foot in the like scrappy high agency startup world, mainly via my social network, via a group of friends that had really shaped me from very early on, and one of whom I ended up marrying, many of whom I've ended up working with in various capacities, who all kind of went the entrepreneurial route. And once I had really become established in my career, once I had my own research lab, my own private practice, was licensed, really had the autonomy to kind of then ask myself, like, who is my ideal customer? Like, what is my unique value proposition? Like, who do I really want to be as a psychologist? I realized increasingly, like, if I'm not going to be a founder, then I want to work with founders. I want to help them. I want to help the most ambitious, high agency people. I want to help the people who are trying to do the really hard things. And I want to bring the learnings of psychology, but also deepen them to really account for the unique kinds of challenges and priorities, and affordances that extreme ambitiousness brings. And so, I started to write a Substack, which used to be Building the Builders. Now it's the Psychology of Ambition. I've worked with now hundreds of founders, both, through um, incubators and kind of talent investors like First Entrepreneur First, EF, which was, mainly in Europe, now has an SF office. I've got sort of referral streams through YC, through A16Z, through all the kind of all the acronyms in Silicon Valley. And then, by referral, have managed to really my range to kind of across the entrepreneurial journey from pre-seed to post-IPO and to the no man's land of what am I supposed to do with myself next now that I'm done being an entrepreneur, and everything in between. And now I'm writing a book, hopefully cataloging my learnings, The Psychology of Ambition, same as the Substack. I'm excited to get some help from Penguin. So that'll hopefully take me to the next level.
Awesome.
So
And listen,
now my table.
yeah,
Go
yeah.
ahead. Good
Founders
time to
are
turn it over.
a messed up people, and I know that because all I have to do is look in the mirror and realize it. And
Me
listen,
too.
we're all a product of our upbringing, and we won't get into the whole nature nurture conversation because I might start crying. But the however,
You're right there with me.
whatever our upbringing was, is who we are and how we lead. And I realized in our talks together, our communication together, is that's actually a central point of what I talk about in my newsletter, what I deal with clients is, who you are is what you do. The way you do one thing is the way you do everything, right? The way you do it is how you grew up. If you had trauma as a kid, that trauma is going to follow you. We're all a kid inside who is becoming a leader. And I want your feedback on this because what I tend to fall towards is when I start working with the leaders that I work with, or the team. We talk about their problems, try to figure out where their challenges are in their leadership. They don't always know. It's always good to get somebody else on the outside. As my friend Natasha always says, when you're inside the pickle jar, you can't read the label. It takes somebody on the outside to be able to read. Like, I don't know why it's pickles all the time, but that's a different conversation.
Pick your favorite kind of jar,
Right,
inside of
right.
the blackberry jam jar. I mean, I
It's a
guess it's more
blackberry
of a
jam. Yeah, I mean
mouthful
that's sticky, but um,
in any case.
and so figuring out that problem, then understanding why they do it.
Mhm.
because you can keep fixing the tire, but
Right.
it's better to find out why it keeps popping and
Yeah,
then get rid of the nails.
indeed.
Uh, for all my cycling friends out there.
Ha!
Uh,
Appreciate
how
it.
do you do that? How do you balance the therapy and coaching, and especially coming from a therapy background? Like, I dip my toe into what's your background like? Let me understand your upbringing. Let me, what challenges did you see there? And then I bring that back to fully understanding what they do. But I'm coaching with a side of therapy.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
come from therapy
Yeah.
with coaching. How do you do it?
Such a great question. Yeah, I mean, this could so easily just become an infinite rabbit hole, so I'm really gonna try to contain myself, and then you can kind of pull on whichever threads
Yeah.
seem most interesting. So, as a psychologist, it's really interesting to kind of hear you talk about this because I think you're probably like, you're coming from a world where the bias is toward just like staying tactical and just like bias to action, surface level. Like, let's just come up with an experiment and go run it. Like, what do you want to do next? Go do things. Whereas my bias, I come from a world where we cogitate endlessly on like what is the trauma and what are the antecedent factors and what are the the accelerants and where we're assuming out of hand that what matters about this person is either the past, and or are these kind of like more unconscious or more kind of abstract and trait level tendencies that we're going to diagnose. And I think we actually tend to pay too little attention. We tend to give too little credit to a person's agency, which has become a really central theme of all of my work, that agency is this kind of organizing capacity and framework. And so it's interesting because as I'm hearing you, it's almost jarring to me like, what do you mean? Of course, we ask about the past. The question is, did you also, by the way, ask about the present? Because like
Yeah.
that's what I see getting omitted sometimes, or like really being curious about what have you tried so far, and what are you after? And have you asked about like what is their ideal kind of their personal kind of ideal life vision into which their vision for this company or for this chapter of their product roadmap or whatever fits in. Like, what is it you want out of this, and how are you envisioning changing yourself? Like, what changes do you need to make in order to level up to what you want out of this next chapter? And so for me, the past is almost like, no, of course, it's like, it's a no-brainer that they're gonna have all sorts of lingering insecurities, and they're gonna get into avoidant or anxiously attached, dynamics with their co-founders. And it's almost like, yeah. No, that's the table stakes. But like, but let's understand why they haven't fired this person,
Right.
or
Yeah.
whatever the case may
Yeah.
be. So yeah, it's
Yeah.
super interesting.
This is really interesting. First of all, there's a whole lot of thoughts going through my mind. As I said, I'm a recovering entrepreneur. I started 3 companies, and knock on, fake plywood, that I was able. Each of them got
Organic
acquired.
matter. Hmm.
Yeah. Um,
Pretty incredible.
well, on the outside, right? On the inside, it's different, and I think of in the past all the quote unquote failures I had with the company, or the things that I didn't accomplish that I wanted to. I blame it all on my father.
Hmm.
He has nothing to do with the companies, but I'm like,
And
if I
yes. Yeah.
only didn't learn that from him, or if that only didn't happen, I could have been better. And so now, fast forward, as I'm a coach, I find I'm not sure, as I listen to you, if I'm asking about people's background to just better understand the decisions they're making, or to have more empathy for who they are, right? Because, it's easy to say, listen, you suck as a leader. Like, just, excuse my language, fucking talk to them and have the tough conversation.
Right.
Um, but it's different to say, "Oh, I get it. You had a rough childhood. You were yelled at. Nobody treated you like a human,
Yeah.
and that's how it's manifesting itself.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
so,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm so sorry, yeah. I
No,
already
go.
got
That's
I got really good feedback last time I did one of these that I'm pretty sure I was the one being given the feedback that I interrupt too much, which is true, so I'm gonna try to be better this time. But here I am interrupting you. Please forgive me.
at, at the right time. Go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna reinforce what you're saying because not only is it nice to also empathize, with the person and with their reasons and with whatever antecedent factors have brought them here. It also makes it a lot more likely, generally, that they're actually going to go and talk to the person and have the hard conversation, right?
Right.
Because if we don't understand why we're in our own way and why it's so hard for us and what the resistance is, chances are we're not going to be able to overcome it, right?
Completely.
So
But as we understand our clients' backgrounds, I never tell any of the leaders of go to your people and ask what their upbringing was like.
uh,
That like so it's also teaching them to have empathy, but by first understanding themselves, right?
yeah.
Have empathy for yourselves is easier to have it for other people.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think I have I'm sort of converging on a way to kind of answer your original question,
Which
which
was
is
what?
like, or well, at least my distillation of your question, which is like, Gena, like how and when and how often do you talk to your founders about their upbringing and like what role does that play? And like, does more therapy mean more talking about upbringing in the past versus does more coaching mean talking more about the present? I get this is kind of how I'm holding the question, or at
Yeah.
least an aspect of it. And I think I have a way to kind of lend some clarity on that, which is I have been dealing in mindsets. My framework is a framework that describes a kind of like aspirational mindset, what I've been calling the builder's mindset. And then it describes failure modes that we fall into, which are also mindsets, and by a mindset, like I mean something fairly specific. I know it gets thrown around a lot, but I mean this kind of like internal working model that that brings with it feelings, thoughts, motivations, behaviors that has, certain triggers that activate it that if you kind of look underneath it, it's got a worldview and it's got a self view. In psychology, these are alternately called core schemas, or in attachment theory, internal working models, different sort of schools of thought have different names for them. But mindset is sort of just like my working term for this kind of structure, let's say, that we have in our psychology. And working with mindsets and sort of being able to organize our psychologies and organize what we do and what we feel and how we think and how we interact with people to kind of organize those into these bins that are called mindsets. It's been extremely helpful, partly in giving me a kind of local, I'm trying to, there's a kind of like visual analogy forming, but I don't have it crystallized enough to to describe. Like it's the it's like the kind of local switchboard that you can go and consult to then figure out where should I go next. It's
Hmm.
like by being able to understand at the level of a mindset, a mindset like that's deeper than I didn't have time to talk to him this week because I was at an all hands, or, I was away, whatever, we were at an offsite, yada, yada. It's deeper than whatever surface level stuff, right? Or whatever tactical level stuff. It's like, wow, I tend to see the world as a scarce and threatening and unnavigable place, where it's like dog eat dog out there, where it's zero sum and my win is somebody else's loss and my loss is their win, right? Like this is how I see the world. This is the lens through which I'm understanding everything that's happening to me, or at least sometimes it is when it's kind of triggered and activated. And when
Right.
I'm in that mode, boy, does that explain a lot about, why I feel really threatened in these meetings, or why it's so hard for me to give feedback, or why I still haven't fired the person, or why,
Right. Right.
like why I keep getting kind of, why I find myself back in this place where we've been spinning our wheels for too long and still haven't been able to call it quit, like, okay, this is super explanatory. And then depending on how kind of, so the mindset is like the kind of causal node that we want to be able to understand and to modify, and like where we can have aspirationally a shared mental model of, okay, I want to be more on a builder's mindset, meaning like I want to really believe that relationships are positive sum. I want to
Yep.
be able to believe that if I really speak to the best in people, then I will tend to bring out the best in people. I'm going to believe that I'm capable of handling challenges, and, that life is about more than just trying not to die. Like, I really want to embody those truths. And how do I do that? And then sometimes part of what you have to do is understand how you got there. And I say sometimes, because not always. For a lot of people, it's like, yep, yep, I have this mindset, what I call the drill sergeant, or what I call the Zen master. I have this kind of mindset, and it's almost like, yeah, of course, my parents and but the point is, it's here,
Right.
where it's just like,
Right.
that's not the interesting part. The interesting part is, yeah, no, I take everything personally, and I sort of assume that you have to prove your worth by some external metric before you can love yourself and build your life. I don't want to assume that. How do I learn to not assume that? And then we can start that work.
Right. So listen, I have a real case scenario for you. By the way, everybody, thank you. If you have questions, put them in there.
Please, yeah.
We're gonna be here till about 10:30. So we're also interested in areas you want us to talk about next. So feel free to put comments on it. Because Gina and I can probably talk for hours on this. Um, so we're gonna
Mhm.
quit while we're ahead. So I have a real coaching case scenario for you. I've got
Ooh.
this one person I work with who's very senior level at a mid to large size company, and when I connect with her about general something, I send her a Slack. She responds right away, right? And when
Mhm.
I send her a challenging message, right, that requires you haven't talked to this person. Why have you should really
Mhm.
have this conversation or prompting some thought. I get crickets.
Mm.
And so in my mindset, of course, as you hear me say all the time, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So my concern is not the lack of response to me. My concern is, this is a CEO. Why aren't you answering the important questions that your team has?
Mm.
So from your
Question.
perspective, to put you on the spot, what do you do?
Ooh, such a good question. I mean, the first thing, and I like, assuming I have the rapport with her, if this isn't our first week of working together,
Yeah,
is
it's
I would
what
just ask. Yeah, like, my clients know I err on the radically transparent side, and I try to really set that expectation early, and I'm not for everyone for this reason, like, I'm
yeah,
just gonna ask you my questions as they come up, and I'm just gonna tell you what I see, so probably the first thing I would do would be, "Hey, I've noticed it's happened a couple times now. You're so fast to respond to the easy stuff, but, like, if it's a challenging question, I notice that it takes a bit longer. Is there do you think there's something going on there?" Like, am I totally off? Was this just coincidence, or, like, could there be a pattern there? And part of that is to find out from her, because she is ultimately the one with, the, like, most
yes,
comprehensive data set on her, right? But
right,
also to see what she does, right? So, like, that's also partly an assessment, right? So if at that point what she answers, like, "Oh, shoot, you're right. This is such a long-standing pattern," and, like, if there's a lot of self-awareness there, and now, okay, well, let's work on this. What makes it so hard? And what are some of the kind of like, what's the mental chatter that comes up? Oh, like, you think that I'm judging your fundamental worth. Interesting. Okay, well, let's work through that. Am I though? And, like, actually really using the relationship to provide that corrective experience, that, like, actually, I really am just here to help. I think you're amazing. And actually, it really impresses me when somebody responds well to feedback like that. So you can only impress me by, with your response, that kind of thing. So, like, we can just get to it. If, on the other hand, it's a bunch of excuses, no, 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 it was just da, 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 da," then A, I sort of make a mental note of that. B, so one thing I'm very curious about is, do you see all of her Slack interactions with her team as well? Like, can you check whether this is a broader pattern?
no, but I'm uh more of a pain in the ass than you are, and I think this is
Really?
um
Wow. How do you be more of one? Tell
oh,
me.
trust me.
Teach me.
So well, let me tell you, I think this is the difference between a coaching first and psychologist first, right?
Interesting.
Because a psychologist, for the most part, you're trying to bring it out in people. As a
Yeah.
coach, I have the right to say, no, this is what's happening. Does that feel right to you? And so I,
Interesting.
instead of saying, why aren't you answering me on the tough things, I'll say, you're not answering me on the tough things. Here's what I think, why I think you're doing it. Does
Hmm.
this resonate, and are you doing it with other people? And I feel like
Interesting.
my job, like, listen, I'm a goal-oriented person. I like getting shit done. And part of that is, let's not beat around the bush. I'm gonna throw stuff at you. My a lot of my clients are really proud how much they hate me because I poke them a lot, right?
Awesome. This is what I mean, I just wanna say, like, this like, the conversation we're having right now is the microcosm of, like, why I love entrepreneurs and what I get
Yeah,
from working with entrepreneurs. Like, I thought I was harsh, but, like, you just say it. Like, you just lay it
yeah,
out there. Like, I could be way more direct, actually. It's awesome.
yeah, but I mean, part of it is that beginning of, listen, I understand your background. I have empathy for who you are and what you're going through. I know it, and I've
And
been there. I've seen it. I've felt it. You're still fucked up, right? And we still have to change
yeah.
this.
Yeah,
And
totally. I mean, and I do get there eventually. It's just it sounds like you probably get there faster. And I'm sure there are trade-offs in both directions because, I think sometimes what I'm able to do is kind of break through a pattern that someone's been really defensive about or just kind of like doubled down on because people nag them about it in a way that never really gets at the heart of why they're doing it, or people kind of misdiagnose it and are like, you just don't care, or you're not. And then they're like, no, no, I care. I care too much, if anything.
right,
And so then they kind of just get retrenched in the pattern, whereas I'll sometimes sort of like notice that and maybe call out a subtler pattern. But just as many times, I would say I could do what you do and just get there faster. You know what I mean? Like
right,
there are
yeah,
trade-offs on both sides.
yeah. Well, listen, here's a funny end to the my case study there, or the situation, because it happened today, right? Like, I sent a really impactful note 3 days ago. She didn't respond. I got more information, pressured her on a note last night. She didn't respond. I wrote her a um, probably too blunt of a note this morning, and I knew that, so I didn't send it. I just let it sit there. I came back, and as I was redoing it, I got a Slack from her saying, "I've been on the road for the past 3 days. I'm sorry I haven't responded yet. I'll get back to you." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Thank God I waited."
That's the
Um,
thing. There's just that's part like the thing I was going to say is also just like it's easy to make assumptions. And so part of the reason that, I ask it, like, yeah, part of it is like, I see this pattern. Are you going to admit to it? But also part of it is like, I don't know if I see it. I don't know if my inferences are right. Like, like, I've so often been humbled by actually, here's the context. And part of what I love about working with people in startups is there's like, the context is so freaking complicated. It's like, there's always something. I'm always surprised. Like it just keeps
right.
me on my toes.
Though I'm not letting her off the hook because the
Sure.
pattern is
I'm
still
sure it's
there.
also a real pattern. Yeah, like these
Yeah,
are not
and that's an excuse. Like,
Yeah,
tell me you're on the road 3 days ago when I sent it.
good point. Yeah,
Um,
totally fair.
so yes.
Funny.
Uh,
That's a really useful case example.
it is. And, listen, I rarely talk about even the companies I work with,
Right.
much less the people. But I always get inspiration from them. And a lot of this, for me, I don't know for you too, but I learn just as much about myself as I'm giving guidance.
I'm
And
Yeah. I mean, that's half the reason I do not half, I don't know, probably 80%, we joked in psychology, there's a kind of running joke that we're all doing me search and that
yeah,
there was a joke. So in clinical psychology, when I got to grad school, somebody like onboarded me to this joke that there are two kinds of clinical psychologists: the kinds who have psychological problems and talk about it, and the kinds who have psychological problems and don't talk about it.
right,
So I
right.
resolved to be one of the former. At that point, I was
Yeah,
like, I'm
yeah,
going to talk about it. Why wouldn't I? But every day of my life that I see, it's like part of what I love is the work I do, it absolutely requires the parity, in parity, not parody. The parity of like vulnerability and work, where I can't ask anything of my clients that I don't simultaneously ask of myself. It's like every hard conversation that I'm pushing a client to do requires me to have a hard conversation with my client. And in the process to face all the same demons, like, why is this so hard for me?
Right.
Like, why? So I'm really scared that my client will leave. Interesting. Okay. What's up with that? Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, and what I fully realize is what I'm teaching people are all the things I wish I did myself, right? Like, I am really good at teaching my mistakes, and there's value in that, somewhere in there. Uh,
Yeah.
Listen, we had said 30 minutes. I say, here's my suggestion: is let's come up with some topics that we can discuss next. Again, anybody listening there, throw some topics in the comments. You can contact either of us with topics. This has been an awesome conversation.
Yeah. So fun. And just the
I
beginning, for sure. I
it's
feel like we're just getting started.
I agree. I mean, some things that we've talked about. You came up with some ideas. Do you want to just touch on those high level, and people can
Sure.
respond?
Sure. Now I'm trying to remember what my ideas were. But if you're looking right at them, go for
Yeah,
it.
I mean,
Mhm.
one thing, I had a couple things of um, how unresolved childhood trauma actually impacts
Yeah.
specific behaviors like micromanaging, perfectionism, conflict avoidance, like where that connectivity is to better understand and accept. Here's what I'm doing. Here's why I'm doing it, and here's how I can address that.
Yeah.
Um, You're not going to get over your shit, but you can work your way through it,
Ooh,
right? Um, Another thing that you said
I have
was,
so many. Yeah. Yeah.
do you have
Go
them
for
there?
it. What did I say? Yeah. I'm literally interrupting you as you tell me what I said that I wanted
Yes.
to talk about. So bad. Yeah. Go ahead.
The line between coaching and therapy, um,
Mhm. Start
founders
to finish
mode,
them.
founders
Mhm.
mode, uh, empowerment versus over empowerment, which is something I've talked about. And yours is the builder's mindset framework and how they are the same or different. And the most common psychological issues and bottlenecks that get in the way of leadership, which I'm really, really interested in talking about. And I will suggest that we talk about that one next.
Sweet. Let's do it. I feel like we're due for a series.
I
Maybe we
think we
should
are
just do this the
due for
next.
a series. What should we
Yeah.
call it? You're fucked up.
I
And
mean,
you,
I love what you came up with leadership therapy.
yeah,
I'm all for it. All about
yeah,
it. I feel like it's such a nice label of our intersection,
right. I agree.
leadership thing. So yeah, we
Okay.
don't broke it if it ain't fixed. No, fix it if it ain't broke. Definitely don't
So
broke it if it ain't fixed.
that's what we'll do.
Yeah.
You probably see us here next week at the same time, I'm guessing. We're gonna we're gonna find that out, and we'll post it. So
That.
connect with us. Um, Give us
Yeah.
any
Tell us,
topics. Give us your
yeah.
feedback, whatever you got.
Yeah, and
Um,
just for whatever it's worth, if shameless self promotion is in,
oh, go.
is fair play.
Yeah,
This is actually relevant to our conversation. So, two things I wrote on my Substack that I think will directly inform our conversation about psychological issues and especially about the kind of childhood trauma.
and your Substack link.
Oh, sorry, the psychology of ambition. I will do that. Yeah. So, if you Google "Your flaws matter less than you think," that Substack piece also coaching for demo day because it kind of brings up a specific example of the kind of childhood trauma framework and how I will comment bias that I like to push back on. So I'm just going to send that. And then it's psychology of ambition. But do you want to put any links as well? Steph?
Yeah, I'll put mine is the best leadership newsletter ever. If you want to, you can just search for the best leadership newsletter in whatever search engine, or go to thebestleadershipnewsletter.com. Pretty simple. Also, if you search for the best leadership podcast in any podcast engine, you'll find the podcast there. So it's pretty simple. Um, Awesome, Gena. Always a pleasure.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes.
Very much likewise. I'm so excited to do this again soon. Feel like we've just gotten the conversation started. So thank you for
Thank
doing
you.
this with me.
Thank you. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye, y'all. See you soon.